3 months after Karen was booted from the HOA and her house was sealed off for community fund fraud, Pleasant Hills had completely transformed. No more red ink flyers warning of sidewalk violation, level 3. No more clipboard patrols standing in front of my house pretending to inspect unruly vines. No more absurd nonsense like seasonal swing permits or hose usage fees. Instead, this morning I stepped out onto the porch, coffee in hand, and saw an elderly couple reading the paper under the grape trellis. Kids chasing each other around the tomato beds. A local uncle put up a sign near the mustard greens. Pick your own, free, smiles required. I didn't need to say a word. No signs declaring authority, because I don't control them. I trust them. My ranch is no longer just a family relic. It's become a place where people can simply be themselves. I built a small corner inside the old barn. Hung up the original land map from Mr. Paul Becker. Photos of my dad, my granddad, and my great-grandpa's torn cowboy hat right next to them, framed as a historical comedy artifact. Karen's fake gas station flyer. Then came the bombshell. Karen was officially convicted. The court ruled full restitution of all unlawful fees collected from residents, nearly $19,000. Fines for impersonating an organization and falsifying records. Personal damages awarded to me, legal fees, damage to reputation, and emotional distress. The total sum? Big enough that she'll never dare look at another HOA sign again. In fact, she's legally barred from coming within 500 feet of this neighborhood. Maybe that's the social distancing she should have learned from the beginning. I heard. Karen started a personal blog called My Side of the Fence after losing her home. It had 3 posts, each one a paranoid rant. He's a foreign intruder poisoning the will of the people. I only wanted to preserve order. The media made me the villain. Then the blog went silent. Probably because her new lawyer told her to shut up. We printed the whole blog and submitted it as additional evidence in our defamation case. Plaintiffs always win when the defendant volunteers to write more evidence. But my favorite part of this whole story? It wasn't winning the case. It wasn't watching Karen get thrown out. It was this year's fall festival. Last year, the HOA ran it like a military operation. Charged fees for each booth, restricted who could sell pumpkins. Fined one guy selling peach jam because his banner wasn't aesthetically HOA compliant. This year, I opened the ranch gates and made it completely free. No fees, no limits, no clipboard critiques of pie crust patterns, just grilled corn, laughing kids, and golden sunlight soaking the fields like the land itself was grinning. I stood beneath the old oak, cider in hand, and watched the neighbors gather. No one asked who had permission to do what. No one sought approval from the Organic Waste Oversight Board. No clipboards, just people, living, laughing, and grateful. I know that someday there'll be another HOA somewhere, another Karen, another clipboard, another set of community standards. But at least now I have a story to tell. A ranch that was once stolen with fake paperwork, a community once ruled by fear, and a man who said no to all of it. Land doesn't lie. It just needs someone to stand up and protect it. I did that, and I'll do it again, as many times as it takes. After the whole Polo security guard fiasco got shut down by the police, I knew I had won the legal war. But like with most real-life HOA battles, the final blow didn't come from court. It came from inside her own camp. Monday morning. An anonymous email hit both my inbox and the local news station. Subject line: HOA chat leaked. This is bad. I opened the attachment, screenshots of Pleasant Hills HOA board's group chat. It was chaos. We need to get out. Donna lied from the start. She said Weston donated the land. I feel like an accomplice in a scam. She used HOA money to repaint the barn. There was no containing it now. One by one, Karen's allies jumped ship. The next day, 2 HOA board members publicly resigned. They posted a statement on the neighborhood forum. We were misled. We had no idea the documents were fake. We sincerely apologized to Mr. Weston and the community. The news spread like wildfire in the Texas summer. By that afternoon, the entire board held an emergency vote to remove Karen from her position as HOA president. And just as you'd expect, Karen snapped, a neighbor called me, laughing mid-sip. You should have seen her pacing around the community center, yelling into her phone, pointing fingers, calling everyone a traitor, like a dethroned queen. I didn't have to do anything. No arguing, no defending. Karen lit the match, shot herself in the foot, and danced around her own bonfire. Then came the real explosion. The following week, an independent auditor was brought in to review the HOA's finances. They found $14,000 spent on a community garden project. No receipts, $3,200 on personal utility upgrades, including a new patio furniture set for Karen's house. Even $950 paid to a so-called HOA media consultant, which turned out to be Karen's personal blog. Once this was exposed, Karen was charged with HOA fraud, misuse of funds, and falsifying official records. Her home was seized, her car towed, and then, in what felt like cinematic closure, a photo went viral online. Karen, sitting on the curb outside her home, surrounded by boxes, head hung low, headline of the article, From HOA President to Defendant, The Cost of Fake Power. I didn't laugh. I framed the photo, placed it in my granddad's old wooden frame, and hung it inside the barn as a historical reminder. But I didn't stop there. I opened the gates, invited local schools to visit. I restored the sign, Weston Ranch, Preservation and Freedom. In small letters below, fines from fake HOAs will be composted. I invited neighbors to plant vegetables together, but this time with contracts, insurance, and mutual respect. No citations, no nasal voices, no clipboards. Karen thought that if she shouted loud enough, long enough, and put up enough signs, the truth would just disappear. But the truth doesn't disappear. It waits until the right time to rise. I was sitting on the porch, a breeze rustling the hill grass, sunlight pouring over the newly repainted barn roof. Weston Ranch was finally returning to what it was meant to be, a real farm, not a stage for HOA theater. I thought it was all behind me. I was too naive. Thursday afternoon, 3:27 p.m. The front gate camera pinged. I opened my phone and saw Karen was back. But this time she didn't come alone. Two bulky men in black polos with the words Pleasant Hills Enforcement Unit across the chest. Sunglasses, earpieces, walking, like budget movie extras in a bad action film. I sat still and watched. Karen stood behind them like a queen sending her guards to deliver judgment, holding a stack of documents, her voice loud enough that the camera caught it clearly. We're here to inspect and ensure the safety of HOA property. I didn't speak, didn't go outside, didn't yell, didn't need a hammer or a gun. I just called 911. My voice was calm and clipped. 3 individuals attempting to enter private property, wearing fake uniforms, not law enforcement. Please dispatch the nearest unit. Then I sat down, poured some coffee, and waited. 7 minutes later, a county patrol car roared up the driveway. An officer stepped out, and I couldn't help but laugh. Officer Blake was back, the same guy who had backed me from the start. He approached, looked at Karen, then over at me. Her again? Karen didn't wait. She stepped forward, waving her papers, speaking like she was reading off a green energy proposal. We represent the HOA. We have the right to inspect this area for violations. Blake took the papers, flipped through them for a moment, then sighed. Ms. McBride, this looks identical to what you submitted last time. No stamp, no official approval. And I'm sorry, but what even is the Pleasant Hills Enforcement Unit? Karen opened her mouth to reply, but Blake raised a hand to stop her. "You've been warned. This is trespassing. This is the third time, and this time, we're filing criminal charges." The two security guards glanced at each other like they'd just realized they'd walked onto the wrong movie set. They both took a step back. Karen? Frozen. No yelling, no tears, no waving HOA violation sheets, just silence. Blake filled out the citation, handed it to her. "If you come back without a court order, you'll be arrested." Karen didn't argue. She just turned, walking away slowly like someone stripped of their crown. The enforcement unit polos now looked like cheap cosplay uniforms from a county fair. That night, I sat alone in the dark, watching the security. Feed, no movement, no flashlights sneaking into the barn, no Karen. For the first time in months, Weston Ranch was truly quiet, but I wasn't done. The next day, Terry filed the lawsuit. This wasn't just about trespassing anymore. It was impersonation of an official organization, defamation, forgery, and emotional distress. The damages sought, enough to buy back every fake HOA sign Karen had ever put up, and torch them at a proper Texas BBQ party. While I prepped for the final legal battle, neighbors began to show up again, not to snoop, to help. An older man brought over a chainsaw, asked if he could take down the old fake HOA fence. A sweet lady brought banana bread and said, "We know you're the good guy. Thank you for not giving up." A little girl gave me a drawing. It was the man with coffee standing by the barn, scaring Karen away with a smile. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't just reclaimed land. I had reclaimed the truth and reclaimed the community. I thought that after the courtroom blow, Donna would retreat like most HOA Karens, quietly, shamefully, fading away like an outdated headline. I gave her too much credit. Just 2 days after the hearing, residents began receiving flyers stuffed into every mailbox. At the top of the flyer, in blood-red letters, "Don't be deceived by the media." Beneath it was a crude sketch that looked like it was drawn by an art student, in the dark. A gas station, a parking lot, and a barn converted into an industrial fertilizer factory. Caption under the image, "Coming soon, visit your garden before it's gone." I nearly choked on my coffee laughing, but that wasn't all. She even launched a website called SaveOurGarden.info, featuring an article titled, "A Stranger is Stealing Our Sanctuary" in it. I was painted as a drifter with no clear background, lacking legitimate employment, and, best of all, currently under investigation. I read it while munching popcorn. But I knew the laughs wouldn't last, because some neighbors began looking at me differently. No one said anything, but a few cars started slowing down in front of my gate. Some people paused mid-road, peering in as if checking whether I was actually installing a fuel tank. That's when I realized Donna wasn't fighting me in court anymore. She was playing the community manipulation game, and if she wanted to make me the villain through whispers, then I'd open the gates, turn on the lights, and invite the whole neighborhood to see the truth. I hosted a meet and greet right on the Bull Ranch. A sign by the gate read, "Coffee, proof, and free laughs. All are welcome." Mia, the reporter, returned with her crew. I set up a table displaying the original land map, my property ownership papers, footage of the HOA's secret barn meeting, and that ridiculous fake gas station flyer tacked right beside it for comedic effect. At first, only a few trickled in, some elderly walkers, a young couple with a baby, but then everything changed. A brunette woman, tears in her eyes. "I paid $600 to join the HOA garden." Donna said the land was donated. "I feel so betrayed." A man nodded, water bottle in hand. "She made me pay an irrigation fee for carrots. Planted near my fence. I don't even eat carrots." A mom with her son, fuming. "He got banned from the swing behind the barn because I hadn't paid a harvest fee." What even is that? I didn't need to speak. The truth spoke for me. Then, like a twist in an action movie, Donna showed up. She didn't come alone. 2 HOA board members flanked her, visibly tense, like guards escorting someone. "To trial." Donna approached, hand trembling as she held out a stack of papers, voice shaky just enough for the cameras to catch. "Mr. Logan, this is a community violation notice. You've damaged and disrupted and—" I didn't even touch the papers. I just pointed behind me. At the screen playing footage of her secret night meeting in the barn, the staged ribbon cutting, and the discussion about media manipulation. I pointed to Mr. Paul Becker, the original. Zoning engineer, seated under the old oak tree sipping lemonade, watching the whole scene like a theater performance. Then I spoke, calm, low, every word like a nail driven into wood. "You're standing on my land, in front of dozens of witnesses, after months of forging documents and spinning lies. If you hand me that paper, I will consider it formal harassment and add it to the lawsuit." No one laughed, no one spoke. 1 second, 2 seconds. And then one HOA board member turned and walked away. The other followed. Donna stood there, her face tightening like the sun itself was burning shame into her spine. And then she walked away. No words, no grandstanding, no threats. I watched her disappear behind the trees, the wind swaying the fake HOA lights still dangling awkwardly from the poles. I knew it wasn't the end, but I also knew this. The tide had turned, and if she still had a card left to play, I had the original deck, the real rules, the real lawyers, and now, a community that was finally awake. I was standing by the fence, coffee in hand, eyes still glued to Paul Becker's original zoning map. He was the city planner back in the day, when my phone rang. Terry Madsen, my lawyer, sounded like he'd just swallowed ice cubes. "Logan." "You better sit down. She filed an emergency petition with the court this morning." "Who?" "Donna. She's asking for a temporary seizure of your land for community benefit until the ownership can be clarified." I nearly dropped my coffee, not out of shock, but because it was hilarious. The same woman who'd planted fake signs, forged paperwork, secretly staged a ribbon cutting in my barn, now wanted legal protection for someone else's property against the rightful owner. I didn't wait another minute. I sped straight to the Travis County Courthouse, where the emergency hearing was scheduled that very afternoon. Courtroom 3B, 2:15 p.m. The air was heavy like lead. Donna sat there in a red dress, scrolling non-stop on her phone. Next to her was her attorney, a guy who looked like he'd just flunked a job interview, crooked tie, folders stuffed randomly into a briefcase. The judge, a silver-haired woman, with glasses perched halfway down her nose and eyes sharp as a scalpel, entered and banged the gavel. "We are here to hear Ms. McBride's emergency petition regarding Lot 872B. Donna's lawyer stood up, voice dull like he was reading a school essay on organic lettuce. "Your Honor, this land has been abandoned for years. My client's HOA community has maintained and beautified it for public benefit. Mr. Weston's return and obstruction are causing emotional harm to the residents." I held back a laugh. But Terry didn't. He stood up and calmly laid each piece of evidence on the table. The original zoning map from 1981 signed by the city planner, the property deed, with a QR code linking to the county's ownership database, the video of Donna and her HOA cronies meeting at night in the barn, a sworn statement from Mr. Becker, the planner himself, confirming this land was never HOA property. The judge said nothing for 3 solid minutes. Then she looked up and, in a calm but cutting voice, declared, "Emergency motion is denied. This man is the legal owner. Any further interference by the HOA or its representatives will be considered harassment and trespassing. I strongly suggest Ms. McBride find a more competent attorney, because this isn't over yet." Donna turned to her lawyer, trying to say something, but he just shook his head. The look on her face, like someone had just cut CNN, Fox News, and HOA Weekly off her cable feed. I didn't say a word. I just looked her straight in the eyes. I didn't win by shouting. I won with the truth. The next morning, word spread across the neighborhood. The HOA began to crumble member by member. 2 board members publicly apologized in online posts. We were misled. Donna told us the land was donated. We deeply regret our involvement. Another resident snapped a photo of Donna pacing around the community center, yelling into her phone, pointing in every direction, shouting, "They turned on me! Traitors! They're colluding with Weston." Once the queen of the garden, Donna was now a paranoid wreck surrounded by imaginary conspirators. As for me, I did nothing, didn't need to. The HOA trellis she built was rotting from the inside, out. But I knew one thing for sure. Donna wasn't finished. She wasn't the type to lose and quietly walk away. And just as I expected, the next storm was already brewing with private security, forged plans, and one final desperate move. 2 days after installing the camera system, I got the first alert at 9:37 p.m. Phone buzzed. The TrailCam app reported motion near the barn. I opened the app, tapped the live view, and I couldn't believe my eyes. 3 figures quietly stepped into the barn, carrying flashlights, a map, and a folder of documents. Leading them, none other than Donna McBride, buttoned-up white blouse, hair neatly pinned, a face that looked like she was about to go live on CNN. A long-haired man with a ponytail, I'd later learn his name was Ronnie, director of HOA Communications, said, "We'll hold the ribbon cutting here. Invite Channel 7 to film. If it airs fast enough, he'll be the trespasser. Public opinion is law." Donna nodded, voice firm as steel. "We just need people to believe this has always been HOA land. Once it's on TV, Weston becomes the guy, intruding on community space." I sat in my chair, gripping my phone, heartbeat pounding like war drums. Not just land grabbing, not just putting up signs. They were now planning to stage a media narrative, painting me as the villain and themselves, as guardians of the neighborhood's Eden Garden. It would have been perfect. If only I hadn't recorded every word they said. The next morning, I called Mia Langston, a former classmate, now an investigative reporter for KTXA News 11. I sent the video. Less than 10 minutes later, Mia called. Back, voice lit up like she'd struck gold. "Holy hell, Logan, this is front-page stuff. HOA overreach, fake paperwork, heritage theft, audiences are going to eat this up." I didn't care about fame. I didn't care about likes, shares, or viral outrage. All I wanted was for the truth to come out. If Donna wanted to drag this into the spotlight, I'd bring a floodlight straight to her face. That afternoon, Mia and a 2-person camera crew arrived at the ranch. I gave them the full tour. The HOA members-only sign, the carrot patch Donna planted behind the barn, the Weston Garden Welcome Tour banner she hung on the peach tree, and finally, the clip of the HOA's midnight barn meeting. Mia interviewed me beneath the old oak tree, planted by my grandfather when he returned from Hawaii. The setting was too perfect not to be the story's emotional core. "You just want to reclaim your ancestral land?" Mia asked. "I'm not reclaiming it. It's never left my hands. I'm just stopping someone else from quietly slapping their label over my family's past." The answer wasn't scripted. No teleprompter needed. It was truth. The report aired at exactly 6 p.m., and the fallout? A bomb dropped on a quiet suburb. Emails flooded in. Neighbors wrote, "I paid $500 to join the HOA garden. I thought it was legit." An elderly lady down the street said, "Donna told me Mr. Logan had donated the land as a gift to the community." Comments on the station's Facebook post ranged from outraged to hilarious. "Karen exists. She's real. No wonder that yoga station went up so fast. Can someone tell me what evaporative measures even means?" This was part of a fine letter the HOA sent me, threatening that failure to pay would result in immediate evaporation. But the most interesting development? The HOA board began crumbling from the inside. The next night, I got an anonymous message from a local forum. Attached, screenshots of a group chat between HOA board members. "Donna's dragging us all down. We were just following her lead. I feel deceived. She said the land was donated. We need out before this becomes a class action lawsuit. Then, like adding fuel to the fire, a dusty silver pickup pulled up to my gate. An older man in a faded baseball cap stepped out, holding a weathered folder. Name's Paul Becker, planning engineer for Pleasant Hills back in the 80s. I saw the report and knew I had to come. We sat at the porch table. He opened an original zoning map and pointed to Lot 872B. This land has never belonged to the HOA. I made sure it was excluded because of its historical value, and I've got the paperwork to prove it. I looked at the folder, original maps, city correspondence, and handwritten meeting notes from 1981. And right then, I knew. I was holding the silver bullet. That night, I didn't sleep, not because of jet lag, and not because of some obnoxious rooster crowing behind the old cattle barn, the one Donna McBride had just turned into a coop for the HOA. No, I couldn't sleep because I was angry. Not the kind of angry you feel when some stranger parks on your land. The kind that chokes you when someone walks onto your family's soil and thinks they have the right to repaint it, install lights, raise chickens, and build a fake HOA empire, right on top of the blood and bones left behind by your ancestors. Next morning, I brewed coffee and stood on the porch overlooking the ranch. The porch still smelled of cheap paint. In the yard, a woman was walking her dog along the fence, eyeing me like I was the intruder, and she was the caretaker. The absurdity hadn't faded overnight. It had gotten worse. I pulled out my phone and called Terry Madsen, an old friend from high school, now a real estate attorney. After listening to everything, Terry wasn't surprised. He just said, "Send me every document, now." I spent the whole morning sorting through records. The deed, old zoning maps, property tax files, even the historic preservation certificate for the barn, the one that the HOA had dared to slap a community clubhouse. Sign on. At this point, I wasn't just angry. I was intrigued. Because if Donna and her fake HOA crew wanted to play legal games, then I was ready to play hardball. I started by heading back to the Travis County Land Records Office with the property lot number, 872B, Weston Ranch. I asked if there were any records of rezoning, annexation, or land use changes submitted by an HOA. The clerk behind the counter typed for a moment and frowned. Yes. There's a community overlay application filed by Pleasant Hills HOA about 9 months ago. I squinted. Was it finalized? No. Missing the signature from the original owner, that's you. I asked for a printed copy. And as I held the thick stack of documents, I nearly laughed. The request to convert private property into community land read, "Abandoned ranch, HOA takes responsibility for beautification and maintenance for the benefit of local residents." Page 1 was signed by Donna McBride, president of Pleasant Hills HOA. The last page listed community support signatures, a few dozen sloppy names like a backyard barbecue guest list, not a legal petition. In the margins, it read, "We, the neighborhood members, support using the land to create a green and shared space." Unbelievable. They had signed on to a dream and believed that dream gave them ownership. I left the land office boiling with rage, but my hands were ice cold, not from fear, from the realization that I had just uncovered the size of this scheme. This wasn't a fencing error. It was a calculated land grab, a conspiracy, organized, coordinated, executed, using legal gray areas, the neighbor's naivety, and a woman who believed that if she lied long enough, reality would bend to her will. That night, I bought 4 motion-sensing cameras, mounted them to trees, fence posts, the barn's gutter, and the peak of the old storage shed, where my grandfather's wind vane still turned whenever the western winds blew. If they dared to hold another meeting, put up more signs, or expand community space, I'd have footage from 4 angles. But more importantly, I was done being polite. I wasn't some returning local trying to get along with the neighborhood. I was Logan Weston, and I was standing on land that my ancestors sweated, bled, and died to defend. If Donna wanted a war, then I'd give her a battle she'd never forget. Have you ever returned home after years away, expecting peace, and instead, someone threatens to call the cops on you? Yeah, that was my welcome home. I'd just stepped off a 12-hour flight from Frankfort, Texas, sun hitting me like a hammer, when I pulled my truck up to the gate of the Weston family ranch. We've had that land in our name since 1892. My name's Logan Weston, and this was the first time I'd laid eyes on that barn since my father passed. But the moment my boots hit the gravel, I heard it. You better back away from that fence, sir, or I'm calling the police. At first, I thought it was a prank, some neighborhood kid maybe, or a mistaken neighbor. But no, what I saw was a woman. Mid-50s, platinum perm, orange HOA vest like she was directing traffic at the Super Bowl, mirrored aviators reflecting the Texas sky, marching toward me like she owned the damn place. She didn't ask who I was, didn't ask what I was doing. She barked like a dog with a clipboard. This is Pleasant Hills HOA Community Garden property. You're trespassing. Now here's the kicker. I still had the keys to the original front gate in my hand. The certified deed with my name on it was stuffed in the front pocket of my jeans. That same deed had been passed down through 4 generations. My grandfather built the barn with his own 2 hands, and yet here I was, being accused of looting my own damn land. I tried to laugh it off. Ma'am, I think there's a misunderstanding. This is my ranch. She didn't laugh. She whipped out her phone, pointed it straight at my face, and said, I'm recording this for evidence. You just admitted intent. Intent? Lady, I was just trying to stretch my legs and maybe find out who zip-tied a community garden sign to my front fence. Before I could even blink, she was dialing 911, spitting words like unauthorized presence, potential burglary, and, my favorite, possible squatter. Squatter? I built the damn rainwater system she's now pointing at like it's HOA property. 10 minutes later, 2 squad cars pull up. One young guy, Officer Tully, looked green but decent. The other, Officer Ramirez, clearly knew this woman. She walked right up to him and whispered like we were in some suburban episode of Law and Order. Ramirez walks toward me like I've just broken into Fort Knox. Can I see your ID, sir? I handed it to him without a word. My Texas-issued landowners. Card had a QR code that links straight to the county property registry. I pointed it out. Scan it. He did. And let me tell you, the shift in energy was instant. Ramirez's brow furrowed. Tully peered over his shoulder. I could see their eyes widen. Sir, you're the legal owner? Been that way for 131 years. Tully turned toward the woman, who I would later learn was Donna McBride, self-appointed president of the Pleasant Hills HOA, and said the words I'd been waiting for. Ma'am, the property belongs to Mr. Weston. This deed you gave us doesn't check out. Her jaw dropped, not figuratively, literally, like a cartoon villain caught red-handed trying to rob a bank with Monopoly money. That has to be a mistake, she shrieked. We annexed this land. It's always been part of the HOA. No, ma'am. It hasn't, Ramirez replied flatly. You're trespassing, not him. She backed up, muttering something about her attorney. I didn't say another word. Just stood there, arms folded, letting her walk herself into a legal hole so deep not even a garden ladder could get her out. Once the cops left, I unlocked the gate and walked in. That's when the full violation hit me like a punch to the gut. My barn had a new padlock. The porch had been painted, coral pink, like some beach house nightmare. There were solar lights lining the gravel path like I'd stepped into a cracker. Barrel parking lot, and the Granger family sign, the one my great-granddad carved in 1915. Gone, replaced with a laminated plastic thing that said Pleasant Hills HOA Community Garden. Members only. I looked around, heart pounding. This wasn't just one nosy neighbor overstepping. This was a hostile takeover. Raised flower beds stood. Where the old orchard had been, a hammock, strung between my pecan trees, swayed in the breeze like a slap to the face, and then I saw it, a chicken coop. Built out of what used to be my dad's tool shed. They weren't just squatting, they were nesting. Donna hadn't mistaken my ranch for empty land. She was running a full-blown operation here. Garden tours, raised beds, solar setups, a fake deed. And apparently, she believed if she just acted like it was hers long enough, nobody would question her. Except now I was back, and Donna McBride had just declared war on the wrong guy.